Hi there, everybody. It's Jenny Clark with Solvability. We have another session today of Freedom Friday with my friend Emily Harman. Emily, you've been in the coaching business for a while, and we were going to talk about masterminds today. I know we've been in them together. Why do people need a mastermind?
Oh, well, there's so many reasons, but let me just try to give some highlights because I know this isn't a long session. But the term mastermind, first, making sure everybody understands what that really is. It's kind of like a group of people that come together to, boost each other up, to work together on common goals. And that term mastermind came around from Napoleon Hill's book right here, Think and Grow Rich. And it talks about the importance of a mastermind in there. And that book was written based on a request from Andrew Carnegie to, he asked Napoleon to interview all of these really rich people to see if there were some common themes. And one of them was participated in a mastermind. But so that term means, like you have all these minds together and you can come up with many more ideas than if you just had one mind, right? And for an entrepreneur, it's so easy to get isolated in your business. Some things that you want to talk about, maybe as CEO, you can't really talk about with your employees. So like having a mastermind is really helpful. In fact, this one article that I found talks about how, masterminds even go back further with Jesus and his 12 disciples. But so there's some benefits of them. And I interviewed somebody on my podcast too, and she talked about the importance of having your own personal board of directors, which is similar to a mastermind.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And you and I have participated in them. So you can run them in many different ways. One way is for like brainstorming ideas. Everyone knows what each other is working on, right? And you're running into a challenge, but maybe I've run into it before and I can help you through it, or somebody else, and you get other ideas. It's so many more ideas coming in to help you as the entrepreneur, and then you get to help others.
Well, it makes it so helpful when you're around people that you have a lot of respect for, that you're going to listen to what they say. And there's so many times where I ask people for directions or advice, but I don't want to hear it. And I'm really not listening. And but when it comes from you or some of the other people in our mastermind, it's like, she's right. And I would never let anybody else tell me that, even an outside board of directors. I would protect myself from that.
Yeah.
So how does it help people open up and decide what they want to be kind of their goals? How does that help them?
Well, you get to know each other. You meet regularly. Sometimes people charge to run a mastermind. You can have poetic license, creative license to do it however you want. Some people, one mastermind I participated in for a little bit, at the beginning of the session, or maybe at the end, but they went around the room and everyone talked about their goals for the following week, and everyone, the things that they were going to accomplish. And they had to report back if they had accomplished it or not. And they put some money in a pool. So if you didn't accomplish your goals, they had specific measures. And if you didn't do what you said you were going to do, you lose some money. So that really is a motivator for some people. So part of it is figuring out what motivates you. But I think sharing your goals, speaking your goals, saying what you're going to accomplish next week out loud, and know that you have to come back and report if you did or didn't do it. It can help some people really achieve more than they would if they were just kind of working on their own.
Well, one of the things that we've recognized from the mastermind we've been in together is that so often we don't recognize what we're capable of until somebody else points it out. And I've always talked to you about this, Emily. It's like, Emily, you can totally do that. And you can, but it sure does help when you have other people kind of remind you why you've got the background, what you can deal with, and what responsibilities and leadership positions you've already had that would make it so possible for you.
Yeah, we can be so hard on ourselves, and we tend to forget some of our experience, or don't give ourselves enough credit for what we can do. And this isn't something you'd want to talk to your kids about, or your spouse, or your mom and dad. You want to get people that believe in where you're headed as well, and understand where you're headed, and can help you out. So
well,
you get to leverage you get to leverage all the talents of everyone in your group.
And what's really funny is when you find out the other people in the group and some different things they never told you they were good at. Like
Yeah.
we found out that Josh Frank played basketball in college.
Yeah. I agree. Who would have known? So yeah, that's cool. And you can share resources. Maybe that would help reduce business expenses. Like we went and met at Eric Doc Wright's place, right? And that, when we had an offsite for our mastermind. So you can share resources, you can exchange referrals, you can team together to go after something. That's one thing I saw as director of the Office of Small Business Programs. I didn't see a lot of small businesses teaming together as a team, not prime sub, but as joint ventures or teams to kind of achieve a bigger piece of a bigger contract. So it's another idea for Mastermind.
Well, one of the things that I've learned from you and the other groups that we've been in, like you told me about positive intelligence and how that creates. And one of the most fascinating things that you brought to our mastermind was this whole concept of saboteurs, and I actually took a quiz.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk to little people about what that is, how it works, and what kind of coaching programs you're offering under that?
Sure. Well, basically, Positive Intelligence is a coaching program that was initially designed by Shahzad Shamin, who's a New York Times bestselling author of the book, Positive Intelligence. And in that book, he talks about why only 20% of teams achieve their full potential, because we've all got these saboteurs running around in our head. We have a judge that judges ourselves, that's our inner critic, but also judges other people and judges situations and as good or bad. And then that judge will tell us about, oh, this is bad, and go recruit, some of your other saboteurs. Some of them are, just to name a few: victim, avoider, hyperachiever, hyper rational, controller, restless. So my top two are pleaser and hyperachiever. So my judge will say, Emily, you will be happy once you achieve this. Then I achieve it. Well, I meant this. And so, that's a lie. And so in this program, you learn how to catch that. And it just helps you with running a business, with, being an entrepreneur, your inner critic saying, I don't know if you should do that. You learn how to silence that, or at least quiet the inner critic and your saboteurs, and you learn how to go to sage mode, where you get curious and you are able to operate from a place of calm, cool, and collected, clear-headed focus. So,
well, when I think about it, I think about having watched the Tampa Bay Bucks play Dallas Cowboys last night, and there's Tom Brady and Dak Prescott as the two quarterbacks. And they would observe, kind of their whole tendency, and they're leading their team, and they're, giving this, they're spreading their feeling to the team, not necessarily by talking or anything. It's their stature, it's how they carry themselves, or their confidence. And you've seen that in sports as well. What do you think of that? Is that a good example?
Well, it's kind of like the energy. People can pick up the energy that you have. So if you have an avoider saboteur, or maybe a hyperachiever or a restless, people pick up on that energy, and that energy can spread. Let's say you're really really just hyperachiever, and you come from one meeting to another, and you're just like, you can kind of maybe tend to boss people around. Or maybe I'm describing myself. You're stressed because you left one meeting and you're coming to another, and you're trying to say, why don't we get this and this done? Take a deep breath, slow down, get curious, approach it differently. I pushed a lot through my career, and now I'm operating more in flow. And a big part of that was this positive intelligence training.
Well, you're so right about that, because once in a while, when we do have that session of flow where we're totally in our own world, we get everything that we want done, and we wake up from it and go, how did that happen? And what you're teaching me is how to make that happen all the time.
Yeah.
So what I've loved about working with the program is, the pod meetings that we were having once a week really helped, because I was in with some powerful people in those meetings. And it was so funny to hear them describe the same thing that I was thinking. Yeah. And how we were working around it. But it was almost like, and this kind of goes back to the mastermind. After you've met with a mastermind a few times, there are no excuses.
Right.
We
And that
don't
would
let
that
ourselves tell the same story over and over again. We say, okay, you've used that excuse. You're not cutting it anymore. What's really happening?
right. So that's a good point, because the pods, the small groups of people that you go through this mental fitness or positive intelligence coaching with is kind of like a mastermind. And you discuss what you did last week, what you intend to do this week. How do you intend to employ the tools that you're using to strengthen your mental fitness and to handle your day better, to be less stressed? And, then you come back the next week and it at least makes you aware of whether or not you did something you said you were going to do last week. And it's really helpful. So that's like a mini mastermind of people focused on the same thing, to strengthen our mental fitness, to make sure that we can get through the day with not feeling so stressed. And so many people are stressed today, but guess what? The stress doesn't necessarily come all the way, from all the circumstances. It's what we think of the circumstances. And based on what we think, what we feel. And we have habits for thinking, and that is our neural pathways that we've created to listen to the judge, to listen to the controller saboteur. And there's other ways of thinking. And these pods or masterminds help you see your blind spots.
Well, you're right about that. And there's so many things that we just automatically do, just like you get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, I go do this, I go do that. And it's learning to identify, what is my automatic response when somebody pushes my button?
Yeah.
And I get very defensive.
Mm-hmm.
And then I pretend that I didn't. And you were talking about, being a little bit pushy with people. What I realized is I pretty much want people just to shut up and do it the way I want. And that is not as effective as it used to be.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Because I think that we have to come up with this is about self-leadership.
Yes.
And awareness. And the more self-aware you are, the better you can lead yourself. And then the better you can lead other people around you.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, what it does is allow us to say, Jenny, that sounds like you're a people pleaser. It seems like you're going to go 4 times around the block instead of going straight through the middle. So what is it that's really causing you that problem? And sometimes I'll just say, well, apparently I'm just not doing that today, so I'm going to go ride my bike or whatever, because we're so used to dealing with things one way. But that's what we've been told. That's what we've been raised to do.
Yeah.
And
we don't tend to stop and think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We don't tend to stop and think of other options for something.
Yeah. You just think, oh, well, gosh, if I could just work harder, I could get this done. We were talking before this started about how do you shut off working and how do you get in the habit of doing that? So I've started turning off my computer at like 5:30, and on the weekend, I'm going to really try not to open it up. Have you done that? What are you doing to unplug?
I'm leaving after this to go to the mountains where I can't turn my cell phone on, even if I wanted to. I can't get the internet. And I did that a few weekends ago, and it was so nice. We think, oh, I don't have time. But guess what? You create time by making that time to unplug, to just let your mind go. And when that happens, your subconscious mind's still working behind the scenes. So what intention are you giving it? What energy level, what's your energy level when you're thinking of some things? What are you feeling? Because that is like a command to your subconscious mind to go find more of that. So that's why practicing gratitude and really being aware of your thoughts is really important, because those thoughts generate our feelings. It's not the other way around.
Well, you're absolutely right. And people talk about how, your thoughts and your feelings is almost like a chemical reaction in your body. It's like an addiction to your habit that you never want to give up. So one of the things that I think is so fascinating about the transition I've seen you go through, Emily, is when I first listened to your podcast about graduating,
yes,
when your retirement ceremony, and you talk about these different stages that we all go through, and now you're in a unique situation where you're actually working directly with people that are going through that same experience, being at a very high level, maybe in a federal level job, and there's nobody they can talk to until they realize that having a coach or being part of a mastermind that could help them, because you've got to find other people that have been there and done that. And there's not that many of you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm so glad that I decided to graduate or retire. Graduation, that's why I call it graduation. It just feels like, yes, excitement. What's next? Whereas retirement feels like I'm going to retire. And some people might not have that same reaction as I do, but that's how I feel about it. I wanted to change it because everyone was like, you're too young to retire. And I wasn't necessarily, I was retiring, that's what the government calls it, but I was graduating to go on to something in my mind bigger and better. I'm still learning, and so many people want to learn that way. And I think so many people get stuck with, well, I'm just going to make this up. I'm a GS 15 step 10. I've got, I could retire now, but I don't know what I would do. And we get so attached to our titles that that's our identity. And I would say that I wasn't as that attached to my title. Some people are, but I had other attachments. My attachment was to stay really busy, and then I didn't have to feel anything. And I knew that about myself, and I really wanted to feel, and I really wanted to have a little bit more time. And I thought that would automatically happen when I graduated, and it didn't. It required a lot of inner work. And so that's what I would love to help other people with who are feeling like, I would retire, but what's next? Or I don't know what I really want to do. Or, should I go for SES? I kind of want to, but, every time I get a promotion, it doesn't fill that hole inside. There's still something missing, and I can't figure out what it is.
Well, and what you're really doing is helping them through the choices they've got, because especially when we get to this point where, the kids are gone, college is paid for, and now all of a sudden we have the freedom, but we're afraid to use it.
Yeah.
So if people want to be part of some of the programs that you're doing, be part of the positive intelligence or do the one-on-one coaching, what's the best way for them to contact you and learn more about it, get signed up?
You can go to my website at emilyharman.com. And I haven't quite updated my website now based on how I've updated my LinkedIn profile. So you can also go look at my LinkedIn profile. It's really clear on what I do and who I serve. When I worked for the Navy in the small business office, we would always tell people, you got to figure out who's your target customer, what do you sell, and who buys it, and what's their language. And that's all the stuff I've been working through since I graduated in the past 2.5 years. And it's like, I've really found my niche, which is to help federal employees as well as contractors, employees that support the federal government, help them figure out the what's next after when they get to be at the graduation age. And there's a lot of people, baby boomers like me, a lot of people ready to graduate. And when you work for the government, the logical next step is to go work for a defense contractor. And I didn't want to do that. And I know I'm not alone. So there's other options. You just got to open your eyes, leave your comfort zone.
Well, I'm so glad that you're on, Emily. And every time we talk, I realize more that we can learn together as we keep going through a mastermind and just kind of encouraging each other. So I want everybody to know that I did just complete the positive intelligence program with Emily and a pod, and I learned so much. It's so easy. And I know that I can identify things that I've switched off overnight because of the things that we did in the positive intelligence program. So everybody have a great weekend, and thank you so much for being on, Emily. I think people ought to give you a call and learn more.
Thank you, Jenny.